This tribute table, round table, I don't know, it's to celebrate Fernando's work. So I will give a very short presentation. Then I will talk a little bit about my personal experience with Fernando. Then we have a fantastic video by Fernando's students. You will all enjoy a lot. And then we'll have three great mathematicians talking a little bit about Fernando's mathematical work. Gian Pietro Pirola, it's okay. Javier Gomez Montt and Cesar Camacho. So this is a super basic vita of Fernando. He started studying electronic engineering in Argentina, and then he decided to move to mathematics. And then he went to the US for a PhD. He got a PhD under Joe Harris in Brown. He was an assistant professor at UCLA. Then he moved to Kansas. He spent a year at Max Planck. And we have the joy of having him back in Buenos Aires in 1994. He's been a professor there until very recently. He just retired. And he's still a researcher at CONICET, our National Science Council. And he has many very interesting papers. He has also several notes, of course, he gave along the years. All of this is in his webpage. Most of them, of the notes are in Spanish, but if you understand Spanish, they are very good files there. And he directed more than 20 undergraduate theses and 8 PhD thesis, and 7 of these 8 students are here today with us. And this is a photo. It was long, long ago. This is way before Fernando moved to the US. I was pregnant and he was doing basketball at that time. And this was a meeting of the Argentinian Mathematical Union in the province of Salta in northern Argentina. I love this photo. And okay, so when I started thinking about what it meant for me, Fernando Cukierman in Buenos Aires, I realized that the main thing for me was this fantastic seminar in algebraic geometry that he started in 2006 and went all over the years, almost every week. And it's the place for students to meet, to discuss, and they go for beer, dinner, whatever kind of conversation, and all for all our visitors. And this was really a jewel. And it's going on now. I think there's an heritage of this. This will go on. And so I'm very thankful for Fernando. And he also taught me what I had been working with toric ideals from a computative algebra point of view, but then he gave a course on the book by Fulton, and I was also, when he came back, I was working with the hyperdeterminants, resultants, discriminants, and he was also interested in that, and he has a couple of very insightful papers, and he wants to clap. Please, let's do that. And now we are going to see the video with this, not only Gonzalo Comas is missing, but all the other ones, they are here, and you will see them right away.
Hola, mi nombre es César Masri. Fui alumno de doctorado de Fernando. Lo conocí por el año 2003 en una materia que dictó geometría diferencial. Después hice el doctorado con él y seguí trabajando con él hasta el día de hoy. Hace casi 20 años nos juntamos una vez por semana a hablar de matemática, a tratar de hacer alguna cuenta y aprender. Yo aprendo mucho de él Es una persona que sabe un montón de cosas, de matemática y cuestiones de la vida, de relaciones humanas. Y bueno, ¿qué significó para mí Fernando? Bueno, una guía, mi director, sí, mi maestro de matemática, un amigo, también alguien en quien contar, eh, con quien divertirme. Eh, Después, ¿qué recuerdo o anécdota tengo? Y no sé, un montón. Tengo un montón de anécdotas, de historias. Algunas me las guardo para mí, otras las puedo contar. Eh, eh, Tal vez más que anécdota podría decir ideas que me dejó, eh, maneras de ver las cosas. Esta idea que tiene él siempre del intervalo, que no es de ningún extremo ni del otro, está siempre en el medio, tratar de ser más equilibrado en las cosas. Eh, Eso me marcó bastante, eh, y lo tomo para mi vida diaria. No me funciona bien, pero trato de hacerlo. Después, bueno, este video es para desearle feliz cumpleaños a Fernando, que la pase muy bien, por otros 70 más, y, y bueno, a ver cuándo terminamos la cuenta que estamos haciendo. Besos y saludos para todos. Chao.
Hola a todos, yo soy Federico Cuelvin, debo estar por ahí entre los participantes del Congreso porque soy uno de los organizadores. Eh, yo conocí a Fernando cursando geometría diferencial, que es una materia de uno de los últimos años de la pregraduación. Y después cursé muchas materias con Fernando, hice mi tesis de licenciatura, hice todo el doctorado con Fernando. Participo del Seminario de Geometría Algebraica de Buenos Aires desde el año 2006, ininterrumpidamente. Así que a Fernando lo conozco muy bien, nos conocemos un montón. Eh, y más allá de saludarlo, que puedo hacerlo personalmente, eh, y de celebrarlo, que es lo que estamos haciendo en esta ocasión, me parece, eh, me parece muy bueno compartir con ustedes, recordarles algunas enseñanzas que Fernando me dejó y me sigue dejando con su ejemplo, con su palabra, constantemente, que que tiene que ver con su gran ética como matemático y también como persona, que implica hacer todas las cosas por lo que realmente significan para nosotros, por el valor que realmente tienen. Por ejemplo, yo del ejemplo de Fernando aprendí que una materia, que dictar una materia es mucho más una oportunidad para compartir conocimiento y para compartir matemática interesante que una lista de temas a cubrir durante un semestre. Que dar una charla de seminario es mucho más una oportunidad para tratar de entender con otros matemática nueva que para contar mi último resultado de mi último paper. Y sobre todas las cosas, porque bueno, porque fue lo que llevó más tiempo, aprendí que hacer una tesis de doctorado, que tener un alumno de doctorado, es acompañar a una persona que está tratando de encontrar su propia voz y sus propios intereses dentro de la matemática. Eh, que todas esas cosas hay que valorarlas por sobre las cosas que formalmente aparecen en la carrera, eh, como completar un currículum y conseguir un buen trabajo en alguna universidad. Que sobre todas las cosas, como dice Fernando muchas veces, la matemática es un camino con corazón y que es un camino que hay que seguirlo de corazón. Bueno, espero que este congreso sea una buena oportunidad para recordarnos todas esas cosas que Fernando nos recuerda a diario con su ejemplo. Eh, Muchas gracias a todos por venir y los saludo.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Ariel Molinuevo, soy profesor de la UFRJ acá en Río de Janeiro desde el 2018 y fui el tercer o cuarto alumno de doctorado de Fernando. ¿Qué pienso de Fernando? Bueno, él es un motivador, una persona que con su pasión por la matemática te motiva. Recuerdo que muchas veces iba a reuniones con él un poco bajoneado porque no entendía nada y después salía bastante motivado y contento. Entonces, una anécdota de él, bueno, tengo muchas. Cada vez que salimos a tomar cerveza juntos hay una anécdota. Pero me gustaría contar la siguiente. Transcurría el primero o segundo año de doctorado. Yo por algún motivo estaba estudiando cosas con variedades tóricas. Una variedad tórica, como saben, queda completamente definida por una estructura combinatoria en términos de conos, ¿sí? Entonces, en una reunión con él, yo como que le digo, bueno, Fernando, pero entonces el teorema sale usando la combinatoria de los conos, como menospreciando el tema. Y Fernando me mira y me dice, mira Ariel, acá estamos por el camino del conocimiento. Conos o no conos, no importa. Vamos a usar lo que tengamos que usar para probar lo que queremos probar. Y esa frase, la de transitar el camino del conocimiento, me pegó fuerte, ¿no? Después de eso empecé a ver distinto las reuniones con él y a él mismo, porque la cosa no se trataba de demostrar un teorema porque sí, para doctorarse, o para publicar un paper y agregar una línea en tu currículum, sino que se trataba y se trata de transitar el camino del conocimiento. Y esa es una enseñanza muy buena, muy profunda. Te agradezco mucho por ella, Fernando, y por tantas otras que me diste a lo largo de todos los años que trabajamos juntos. Entonces me gustaría mandarte un abrazo grande, feliz cumpleaños, seguí así que vas bien. Y bueno, saludos a todos.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Javier Gargiulo Acea, fui alumno de Fernando de graduación y de doctorado en la Universidad de Buenos Aires y quería empezar el video felicitando a Fernando por este merecido reconocimiento a su gran trayectoria como matemático y destacar algunas características, algunas cualidades para que todos lo puedan conocer un poco más. Y justamente pensando en destacar cualidades de Fernando, tanto como matemático y como persona, me di cuenta de que una de sus principales características es que esas dos cosas están completamente interrelacionadas. Por ejemplo, es muy común que en una reunión tal vez un poco más formal o laboral de trabajo, en algún momento uno termine conversando cosas más de la vida y recibiendo incluso consejos de él. Y al contrario también, en reuniones un poco más descontracturadas o en ámbitos un poco más relajados, es muy común que uno termine hablando de matemática e incluso tal vez pensando en argumentos o cosas que incluso en el futuro sirven para el trabajo mismo. Un buen ejemplo de esa interrelación entre esas dos cosas es el famoso seminario de geometría algebraica de Buenos Aires, que acontece regularmente todos los viernes de 6 a 8, es un seminario hace muchos años, en ese horario específicamente elegido por él, porque termina generando una atmósfera increíble en la que Todo el mundo suele llegar antes, entre las 4 y 5 de la tarde, para compartir, por ejemplo, un café. Después, entre las 6 y las 8 hay una charla de matemática. Suele ser una charla sobre temas tal vez un poco más amplios. Esa trae las grandes características de él como matemático, como formador, que siempre promulga tener una visión amplia de la matemática y no ser tan, tal vez en algún sentido, cerrado a sus áreas específicas de trabajo. Y después de esa charla del seminario entre las 6 y las 8, el speaker tiene el gran derecho a elegir dónde va a ser la cena del seminario, que justamente es la segunda parte del seminario y es tan importante como la primera. De hecho, recuerdo la primera frase que me dijo Fernando cuando comencé a ser alumno de él, que él me dijo, recuerdo que me dijo: yo no sé bien cómo son tus relaciones sociales o el tema de tu familia, pero avisale que los viernes son nuestros. Así que siempre me acuerdo esa frase. Y otra cosa que quería destacar o recordar de estos años de haber estado trabajando con él son las reuniones laborales. Como alumno uno se reúne más o menos una vez por semana, más allá de si uno ha tenido avances o no. Esas reuniones son semanales y surgen en distintas modalidades. Puede ser compartir un café en el bar, puede ser alguna charla en su oficina, puede ser un mate en su casa, o hasta incluso muchas reuniones han sido caminando por los predios de la universidad, salir a caminar y tratar de discutir en un ambiente un poco más descontracturado cosas del trabajo o incluso cosas de la vida. Así que quería aprovechar también para agradecerle a él por haber sido mi guía, mi maestro, tanto en el camino de la matemática como en muchas otras cuestiones que me han formado como persona, y recordar que estaba haciendo la cuenta después de haber trabajado con él en la graduación, en el doctorado, y continuar trabajando con él, mismo que yo ahora me encuentro trabajando aquí en Brasil. Estaba haciendo la cuenta que llevamos unos 15 años de reuniones ininterrumpidas, semanales con él, conversando tanto de la vida como de la matemática. Así que quería felicitarlo nuevamente y enviarle un abrazo grande.
Hola, mi nombre es Sebastián, fui alumno de doctorado durante 6 años con Fernando, primero como en licenciatura, después en doctorado, y Fernando para mí es un maestro. Aprendí muchas cosas de él, matemática y cosas de la vida en general, y por ahí una cualidad que valoro mucho, así algo muy particular de él, es que es un tipo que presta atención y se toma el trabajo de decirte lo que él cree que vos necesitas escuchar. Y para ahí el plus es que encima lo hace de una forma, bueno, muy a su manera, ¿no? Muy especial, vamos a decirle, como por ahí se dieron cuenta ya escuchando otros de estos videos. Bueno, y esa forma hace que todo sea más memorable y divertido. Les quiero contar 2 cosas que aprendí con él de esta manera. Primero, es que hay cosas que se hacen en la intimidad. Eso lo aprendí cuando estaba estudiando geometría algebraica, estaba leyendo cosas de un libro, estaba recién comenzando y tenía una duda que me tenía mal, ¿no? Entonces dije, bueno, se lo voy a preguntar a Fernando. Y, y cuando le pregunté, él se rió y me dijo: Sebastián, algunas cosas se entienden en la intimidad. Un día de estos te vas a despertar y ya lo vas a haber entendido. Y tenía razón. En el momento me dio bronca, algo entre bronca y risa, pero tenía razón. Y la segunda de las cosas que aprendí de Fernando es a seguir el camino de la verdad. En términos matemáticos, eso para mí quiere decir algo así como que por más de que uno tenga una idea que es muy buena y que le parece muy bonita, hay que tener una conversación fluida entre lo que uno quiere que sea verdad y las pistas que van apareciendo por ahí de la realidad, ¿no? Y en última instancia, si uno falla, si uno se equivoca, igualmente es productivo porque uno dio un paso hacia adelante en el camino de la verdad. Y bueno, después haciendo este video también me di cuenta de que había muchas cosas que pensé que había entendido y no entendí, metáforas de Fernando, como por ejemplo, ¿qué quiere decir que hay que hacer matemática como un samurái? De Fernando. Esa por ahí nos la puedes explicar en una de las cenas. Así que bueno, muchas gracias a toda la organización por el evento, a Fernando por todos estos años compartidos, los disfruté mucho y espero que la estemos pasando de lujo allá en la conferencia. Chao.
Hola Fernando, hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Espero que estén pasando un muy lindo momento. Muchas gracias por la invitación a este congreso en honor a Fernando. Mi nombre es Mariano, quería agradecerles por la invitación. Yo lo conocí a Fernando en la facultad. Recuerdo que estaba tomando un curso de geometría algebraica y él estaba dando el curso. Y bueno, ahí lo conocí a él y después de que explique la materia de una manera muy buena, muy interesante, con mucha profundización, con lectura, recomendaciones de libros y ver la calidad humana de Fernando. Después elegí ser su alumno y por suerte me aceptó. La verdad que conocerlo a Fernando fue muy lindo y todo lo que me explicó fue muy bueno. Y a medida que lo fui conociendo en esa faceta de director, pero también de mentor, de maestro en un sentido general de la palabra, no solo de la matemática, pero obviamente en mi camino matemático, la verdad que fue muy lindo. Él fue mi director durante todo mi doctorado, así que nos conocimos mucho y la verdad que aprendí muchísimo de él, fue muy enriquecedor. Así que muchas gracias Fernando, te mando un gran abrazo. También quería contar alguna pequeña anécdota con él, y es que yo cuando estaba un poco trabado sobre el final de mi doctorado con algunos cálculos, estaba un poco desorganizado y él me dio un gran consejo. Y lo que me dijo es que escriba una lista de deseos, casi como si fuese una carta para Santa Claus o Papá Noel, diciendo cuáles serían los resultados o objetivos que quieras cumplir. Me dijo que eso se lo había escuchado a algún otro matemático, por ahí él puede contar cuál, pero la verdad que fue un gran resumen de cómo es Fernando. Una persona que te guía, y por lo menos en mi caso, y también una persona que te muestra una visión que hay que tener una visión optimista para con la matemática, que hay que ordenar las ideas y tratar de encontrar la belleza ahí adentro. Muchas gracias por todo y espero que sigan disfrutando y sigamos disfrutando. Chao, chao.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Pablo Perrela, soy alumno de doctorado de Fernando y quería tomarme unos minutitos para decir unas palabras sobre él. A Fernando curiosamente lo conocí fuera del contexto matemático. De hecho, la primera vez que nos vimos fue en una clase de Tai Chi y fuimos compañeros durante un tiempo. Pero posteriormente cursé una materia con él y pude conocer su faceta más académica. Cualquiera que haya hablado con Fernando seguramente sabe cuánto le gusta la cultura china. Basta tener un par de conversaciones con él para que sea mencionada esta famosa dupla del yin y el yang. Es evidente que Fernando hace un esfuerzo constante para identificar estos polos en las distintas facetas de la vida, y en particular en la matemática, ¿no? Recuerdo que una vez cuando estaba lidiando con una cuenta de la tesis de la licenciatura, él notó que estaba un poco estresado con el asunto y me dio un consejo en su estilo característico, que es enmarcado en una conversación sobre el yin y el yang. Me dijo que hay momentos para fluir y hay momentos para hacer una cuenta y llegar hasta las últimas consecuencias, pero también está bueno reconocer la importancia entre variar entre ambos estados, entre alternar entre ellos. Dado que sus palabras fueron de gran ayuda, desde ese momento trato de hacer un esfuerzo de identificar este yin y este yang en los distintos aspectos del día a día. Aprovecho para compartir algo que dijo nuestro profesor común de Tai Chi sobre la importancia de la cotidianidad con el maestro. La imagen era más o menos así. Está este maestro emanando una suerte de rocío y de alguna manera empapando día a día a sus alumnos con esta metáfora de la sabiduría, digámosle. Bueno, espero que luego de tantas horas de reuniones, cenas de seminario y conversaciones informales se me hayan pegado, aunque sea algunas gotitas de todo lo que Fernando tiene para compartir. Gracias por todo, te aprecio mucho, Fernando, y te quiero un montón. Y bueno, aprovecho para mandarle un saludo a todos y bueno, a seguir disfrutando. Saludos.
After this great video, we have the pleasure of having now Gian Pietro, Javier, and Cesar. Please come. So I thought that he will start, then Javier, and then you. No. Aquí al lado. No, Gian Pietro. No tiene otro. Sí, perfecto, perfecto. It's working.
Okay. I am Pietro Pirola. I met, first a great honor to start at this round table. I have no start, but it's okay. I met Fernando in 85, in September 85. He finished, as you have seen before, his PhD with Joe Harris in 87. So I just was visiting in Brown University at that time. And so I would like to talk about some work of Fernando, not the foliation, but the other one, the other life. And there are people that knows much better than me. It is the story of the foliation. It is. So the first two work of Fernando were about the thesis, and the first two work that were published in Duke, about Weierstrass points and higher Weierstrass points. Weierstrass points are inflection of the canonical curve or of the linear series, as you know, and the higher Weierstrass points are the inflection point for the multi-canonical series on a curve. And in particular, he computed in both cases the class of the divisor in the moduli space of a pointed curve, mg with a fixed point, of this Weierstrass point. And it was a very important thesis, in my opinion, because it was one of the first attempts to use the admissible covering and the linear series, the limit of linear series that was invented just a few years before by Joe Harris and Eisenbud and Joe Harris and Mumford maybe. And I know that this thesis was studied by many people that look at carefully. He faced a lot of problems. Maybe nowadays some of techniques have been improved, but at that time he had to face a really starting problem. For instance, he proved some singular Hurwitz formula, and all the limits. I was able to compute these classes. Another, in the same line, but completely, I mean, not completely different, but it was a wonderful paper with, one of the papers is in collaboration with Fang, if you don't remember. And another paper which is, I think, wonderful is the paper composition, about curves of genus 9 on K3 surfaces. And in that paper, he proved again that he was really a pioneer, a pathfinder, I must say. And he was able to, there are two divisors, very natural. One is the curve that are in the K3 surfaces of smooth curve of genus 10. So generically, this gives the only divisor of the K3. And the divisor defined by the degeneration of the wall map. And by a theorem of wall, they should be certainly related. And he proved a wonderful formula that the divisor of the wall is 4 times, so it's the same locus, but the multiplicity is 4. And I said that is really an important paper, because, for instance, just a few years ago, this was generalized by Arbarello, Bruno, Sacca, and Cernesi to higher dimension, but many, many years later. This problem was really important, and also the proof is very elegant. I read before to come here, say, okay, I have to read the paper, but this was really nice to get into this part. I would like to mention also the paper that uses the idea of Mumford and Knudsen, of the Knudsen and Mumford, the determinant of the cohomology to give a formula for the higher-ration, and he was able to recover the classical formula of Klebsch and Cayley, if I don't mind, Fernando. And he uses the determinant cohomology, so it was something like a derived geometry, when in this time it was not very popular, I think. And then there is also other important paper. I don't want to talk, because I'm not an expert, maybe I can ask Angelo about the enumerative. He has 2 or 3 papers on enumerative geometry with Angelo, with Paolo Ruffi and other people. And I would like to recall that there is also one paper in, let's say, differential geometry, in studying the rigidity of the immersion in PN of the curve, and he was able to, using the Calabi rigidity, to show that when these immersions are isotropic, it can be reduced to the category, algebraic category, and it was quite interesting paper. And I would like just to finish mentioning a paper that maybe is not considered very important, but for me it was important. It was one paper on monodromy, and also he was able, well, he recovered all he's written in very well style. You can understand very well what is going on. There is one nice theorem for the plane curve that inspired me and some of my students. And also I would like at the end to recall that I remember many timeless discussion that we had in Brown about Zariski, about many other problems. And I think it was really inspiring to me. I also would like to recall that when I came to Brown, Fernando was really an important, well, there was many other friends, but Fernando was really important. First of all, it was practical with respect to me, when we need a mechanic with the car, we asked to Fernando me and Aluf, what we going to do. Maybe Angelo was better than me, but it was fantastic. And also I have to recall, you know, when you are abroad for the first time, but with Fernando, there was really a good atmosphere, and I couldn't forget some dinner in this Mexican place, which is, maybe it was not good, I don't know, but at the time I enjoyed a lot, and also a Chinese one, and in particular this Mexican one was a little out of Providence, and me and Alufi at least always take the wrong path, and we thought sometimes that it was something like a black hole or something like this. But it was some evening really fantastic for me, and I think that this atmosphere helps not only just to be fun, but also to make maybe it's not really a family, but something that helps also in doing your work. And so I would like to thank you for your friendship and for what you have done.
I'm Javier Gomez Mont from Mexico. As you can see from the previous talk, Fernando had a revolution in his mind because he changed from that topic to the topic of this conference, which is algebraic geometry and foliations. So let me talk about the historical interest in this topic. As all of you know, during the 1960s, algebraic geometry suffered a revolution with Grothendieck and his group. And on the other hand, there was this theory of holomorphic differential equations, which was very classical. And around 1970s, there was a group of people that we started to apply techniques coming from algebraic geometry and dynamical systems and anything we could get hold on. And this was led by Cesar Camacho, by Paulo Sada and Alcides Lins here in IMPA. In France, there was Robert Moussou with Dominique Serbeau, with François Mattei. And in Mexico, there was Alberto Berhovsky, Pepe Ciade, and myself. And IMPA was fundamental for the development of this group, France, Brazil, Mexico. And I don't know where Fernando got his antennas out, and he realized that this was a profitable area of mathematics that one could develop. So in that sense, I admire Fernando's ability to recognize that it was important for him to change topic and leave this topic and move to this foliation theory and algebraic geometry. And in that sense, he has been applying the techniques he learned from previous life into this new topic. And I am very impressed by all the students he has had. As we saw from the previous video, he has had a big influence on his students. So one might ask, first he had this ability to change. Most people don't want to change. You know, they learn something and then they stay all their lives on this topic. So one thing to admire is that he had this power to change, to learn something new and to push it in a profitable way. So we saw from these videos that a good teacher doesn't only teach, but he conveys enthusiasm about the topic. So in that sense, I think that one can see the enthusiasm that he passed to the students due to the fact that he has these so many students and which have had a profitable academic life. Also, I like to mention something which impressed me very much, which was said, I read in a paper that Grothendieck wrote, which says that creativity in mathematics, and in parentheses in anything, is this ability, is this force of concentration to listen to what the thing has to tell you. So in that sense, I think that Fernando has this ability to listen to the thing and then not only do the work himself, but pass the work to the students so that they do the work and he gets the merit. So anyway, he has this ability to convey enthusiasm and to pass good problems to the students. I think this was this is part of his success, and also you know, I looked at this picture of Fernando that you can look over here, and usually when a photographer takes you a photograph, he tells you smile. Now, if you see that photograph, he's not smiling. So, you know, I started looking at the photograph and said, what did the photographer tell him to think when he took this photograph? And so, I think you will agree with me when you see my conclusion is that Fernando is a great hypnotizer. Hipnotizador en español. So I think, you know, that he hypnotized all these students to work for him and push this new field that he discovered was you know, a pertinent field to develop and form groups. So in that sense, I think Fernando is a great teacher, is a great person. As many people have said, I remember him taking us to the Milonga in Buenos Aires and showing us that, you know, we are mathematicians, but we are also persons, and we have to have a good time and be serious about our work. And I think his students, the formation of all this group in algebraic geometry and foliations in Buenos Aires is due to his work, and he had this ability to figure out that it was a fertile ground to do, and he convinced all these students, and he's a great hypnotizer. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, Jorge Vittorio, for inviting me to this nice meeting. It's been several months since I don't come to IMPA, my alma mater. And so I feel happy to be here to congratulate Fernando on his birthday. Really, as Javier has said right a moment ago, I am also astonished to see the video produced by the students of Fernando about him. They love him. I wonder what is the sentiment that I inspired on my students. certainly is very different. Okay, as Javier, also let me allow me to give some historical references as my age permits. The story of this participation of Fernando in this group of foliations started a long time ago, and with a completely different point of view. In fact, it started in different views in Russia. You didn't mention Russia. In Japan, you didn't mention Japan. And in France also in a different way, in Mexico in a different way. But here at IMPA, the predomination was dynamical systems. I wrote a thesis with Steve Smale in Berkeley about the dynamics of actions of the group R2. And it was somehow natural to derive to more amenable groups like C, complex foliations of one-dimensional, complex foliations, and in general, holomorphic foliations. So this was a natural way. But the setting that in which we live here at IMPA was the setting of dynamical systems. That means you should look for hyperbolicity, you should look for stability. And the pioneer in this area, indeed, it was Ivan Kupka. Kupka was jointly with George Sotomayor the first PhDs, the first doctors at IMPA, far in 1962. But Ivan Kupka was a student of René Thom. But due to some complex personal problems, Kupka emigrated from France, first to the United States, then to Peru, then to Brazil, where he worked with Mauricio Peixoto, and in his thesis proved the so-called Kupka-Smale theorem. But before, when he was a student of René Thom, he published a short paper, I think it's published in the National Academy of Science, in which he proves that a differential integrable form around a singular point of one form whose total derivative is different than zero is indeed a codimension 2 submanifold, and transversally it is a vector field. So there is a two-dimensional cross-section to the singular set, and the dynamics, so to say, at that time, it was the dynamics of a two-dimensional vector field. So this was well in the spirit of dynamical systems, and therefore a little uninteresting to go from vector fields to differential forms. I was a very close friend of Kupka. I met Kupka when I was a student in 1966 here at IMPA. Not here because IMPA was a small house in Rua San Clemente. The house still is there. And Kupka was spending a whole year at IMPA, and we became very close friends, and I learned a lot of mathematics with him. And in particular, he told me about this theorem. And so when I went to Berkeley, I had in mind two different areas, two different objects. Complex vector fields or foliations and integrable differential forms. At the time, one used to read Sacksteder's thesis, so foliations were around, and also the classical linearization theorems in the complex field. So this basis was in which we worked, but always under the setting of the dynamical systems school. I came to IMPA, and very soon I had two students. One, Ayrton Medeiros, few people know him, and the other, Alcides Lins Neto, that certainly is very well known among the specialists here. And Ayrton Medeiros made a very beautiful thesis on differential forms, integrable, but afterwards he wrote a jewel, a very precious paper which is hidden, and I recommend to read it, especially to the young people who are looking for problems. He studies P differential integrable forms, not one forms, P forms, not P1 forms, P forms. And he made the best contribution up to today about the dynamics of this kind of foliations. And Alcides Lins Neto, which was a very powerful mathematician even as a student, he did a thesis on electrical circuits, but then he derived to the study of complex foliations. In 1978, around 1978, I proved with Alcides a very nice and mysterious theorem showing that there exist stable one forms generating complex codimensional one foliations that had the property that its first jet at the singularity was extremely degenerate, in fact, of any order, but on the other hand, they were stable, contrary to the spirit, to the dominant spirit of the school of dynamical systems. So this was a precious object that I intended to study in detail around the 78, 79. This paper was published in the Publicación Mathématique de l'IHS and remained hidden for a long time because the intention to develop this theory at that time was interrupted because I went to Berkeley to spend 1 year as a postdoc, and I invited to come to Berkeley also to Paulo Sad, who was starting to work with me at the time, and so we spent the year of 1980 in Berkeley, and I forgot completely about the theorem about integrable differential forms because we studied holomorphic vector fields and we obtained very interesting theorems, especially a connection with residual theory that gave to us a very nice index theorem for complex foliations. And very useful also because this produced other theorems. And since this was a very rich discovery, all of us were involved in these kind of questions. Alcides, Paulo Sad, myself, and this is the time when we met the Mexicans. No, so the other paper remained forgotten, hidden, nobody read that paper. I remember that I only talked twice about this paper, once in Dijon, in a seminar, and the other in the École Normale Sup in Paris, invited by Adrien Douady, who was very fond of this theory. In fact, from my personal attitude to this kind of problems in mathematics, I was much involved in the study of the dynamics and the structure, the geometrical structure of complex foliations of dimension 1. And so this theorem became, in fact, outside my memory, but it was very present in the mind of Alcides Lins Neto. And Alcides made a very beautiful contribution when he said, this example that we have, which exhibit stability, but on the other hand, they are very degenerate singularities from the dynamical point of view, they are indeed irreducible components in the space of foliations. This was the first time I heard that, and I was struck by the intelligence of Alcides. In fact, he applied the same view to other areas. For instance, to the Ilyashenko theorem of stability of centers. He explained it, Alcides explained that this also is an irreducible component of vector fields admitting a center. And so he opened a new avenue, extremely important, because at this moment we were saying goodbye to dynamical systems. This was a new area, completely different. No? And it is in this kind of area in which I didn't dare to enter, because it was evident that this was a domain of algebraic geometry and maybe complex analysis. This was the time in which Jorge Vittorio Pereira entered into play, no, with precisely the right point of view, the right background to understand these kind of problems. And I know that the collaboration between Fernando and Jorge Vittorio have enriched this kind of research that derived from a very aligned area like dynamical systems. So I think that, as I see it, I think that we are entering in a new kind of problems, pushed on one hand by people like Fernando with his formidable knowledge of algebraic geometry, and also with Jorge Vittorio Pereira. And the only thing remains for me to do is to pass the bar, to pass the stick, and to go ahead, and to say good luck to all of you. The other line of thought has to do with complex analysis. And this is the kind of mathematics that another student of us, not me, but from Alcides, Oseimo Basati right now doing in a very interesting way. And so the story that began with a very simple example and theorem from Kupka derived into a very enriching way of thinking mathematics, enriching our mathematics here in Latin America. I wish to thank also to Fernando, no, because he helped me by being in Lima several times in order to enrich the mathematical environment in Peru, no, where we were trying to create a research center in mathematics. Thank you very much also for this collaboration. And the other day I was lunching with my son and daughter. They remember that we four were in Lima having lunch in a Chinese restaurant. Maybe you remember, no? And the impression my son and daughter have about you is that you are a gentleman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. So we have now a cocktail. Enjoy.